Hi again, everyone. I'm Ollie Matthews. This is Societal Narcissism. This video is sponsored by contribution from Glenn. Glenn gave a general contribution, which I'm going to use on this video. Trigger warning, this one's pretty horrible. Jamie Sarconic, house arrest. House arrest for impregnating daughter, a result of race-based sentencing. Nova Scotia's lenient court system hurts the very communities it tries to protect. So this is out of Canada. Wonderful. In the summer of 2019, a baby was born in Nova Scotia with serious medical complications and significant developmental delays. Concerns by a medical geneticist led to police becoming involved. When the mother, 23, was discovered sexting her father during a visit to the neonatal intensive care unit, it all made sense. The parents were father-daughter pair with a 31-year age gap between them. Who gives a shit about the fucking age gap? Holy Christ. Both were intellectually disabled. Their child, also disabled, has since been placed in foster care. The father was subsequently charged with the crime of incest. Shortly afterwards, he confessed that he first slept with his daughter when she was 19 or 20. Bullshit. I'm sure it happened long before that. Normally, incest would be punished with a jail sentence, 2 years on the low end and 14 years maximum. Applying progressive sentencing principles, a majority of the Nova Scotia Court of Appeal decided late August that the father should only have to serve 2 years house arrest. More reasonably, the dissenting judge believed that 4 years in jail was apt. So he originally got sentenced to 4 years for having sex and a child with his own daughter. But the Court of Appeal said he should just be on house arrest for 2 years. Oh, Jesus Christ, what a society. What are we doing? Incest is considered a serious crime for a number of reasons. Like murder, it's sanctioned because it comes from a deep cultural taboo in the West and pretty much everywhere else too. And that's just the thing. This is what I keep telling you. They're trying to destroy Western culture. I can't tell you how many incest victims I have on my channel that come from minority communities. And it's all this. Shh, don't talk. Shh, the door, dirty line. Shh. And now there they are. They're going further and further and further down the normalization path. The taboo likely emerged from the objective harm incest poses to society. Incest causes genetic defects and is also a result of one person's exploitation of another. Offspring, regardless of age, cannot consent to sex with their parents because there's always power. They always have that power over a child. Any child that would consent to sex with their father isn't mentally capable of making that decision in the fucking first place, or their mother. And this is coming from somebody whose mother fucking couldn't stop touching him when he was a child, was overtly sexual with me and my brother. At trial, the Crown had argued, the Crown, that's what they call it up in Canada and the UK. The Crown had argued that the father should spend 4 to 6 years in jail based on sentences that had been handed out to similar situations. Why shouldn't he get the maximum? Because that disabled child has to live a lifetime of the consequences of his perversion. It lost. On appeal, it argued the same. This was a severe crime, and it was made worse because the father violated his position of trust over his disabled daughter. Worst, he impregnated her, risking genetic harm to the child, which he caused. The Nova Scotia Public Prosecution Service told me Wednesday that it has not yet decided whether it'll appeal once more to the Supreme Court of Canada. And Canada's fucked. And I've been saying this over and over again. My Canadian subscribers will confirm this. Canada's fucked. They're more fucked than we are. They're further down the road than we are. And who is it doing it again? Once again, corrupt, disgusting judges. Corrupt, disgusting judges. Ugh. Nobody will address, not in this country, not in Canada, not in the UK, not in Australia. What are you going to do about these degenerate judges? The trial court and a majority of the appeal court didn't buy the Crown's argument. Well, what argument needs to be made here? The guy's been having sex with his daughter, impregnated her, and had a severely disabled child as a cause of it. What argument even needs to be fucking made here? It's mind-blowing. Why? Because the offender was remorseful and was determined, unlikely to reoffend. Really? Because she and him were still sexting each other after the kid was born. So what's going to stop him from reoffending? The 2-year house arrest? Are you serious? Another reason was that he is black. And this is a problem. And look, incest can happen anywhere. But this is especially a problem in minority communities, especially black communities, Caribbean communities, Arab communities, Pakistani. This is a problem that they are now just exacerbating by saying, oh, well, he can't help it because he's black. How pandering? How pandering can you get? And I know my black subscribers and my black females, black women who follow me, and I have many. I know it's going to be triggering to them, the ones who have gone through this shit. How invalidating. Oh, because he's black. Oh, okay. So now we got to bullshit. While the Crown established using past cases that a jail sentence of 4 to 6 years was normal for this kind of crime, the appeal court dismissed this as merely a guideline. The court also noted that the offenders in previous cases were not African Nova Scotians. Like it matters. When deciding whether offenses of such heritage should serve house arrest or jail, the court wrote that a more nuanced approach was required. In short, a racial discount was to be applied. The moral culpability of an African Nova Scotian offender has to be assessed in the context of historical factors and systematic racism, as was done in this case. Racism caused him to have sex with his own daughter? Wrote the trial judge, with whom the majority of the appeal court agreed. Sentencing judges should take into account the impact that social and economic deprivation, historical disadvantage, diminished and non-existent opportunities, and restricted options may have had on the offender's moral responsibility. So you're comparing it to stealing a loaf of bread if you're hungry, okay? Racism makes you incapable of understanding having sex with your own children is wrong? I mean, what are we saying here? What are we saying here? Black people should be outraged about this, especially if you're a black victim of incest or molestation. So why should it stop? So then why should it even stop at incest? Why not all sexual assault? Why not all sexual assault? Oh, he can't help it because he's black. Oh, let him off house arrest. I mean, that's what's going on here. As an African Nova Scotian, the father had been impacted by historical deprivation of social and economic deprivation, as well as diminished and virtually non-existent opportunities. That doesn't even mean anything. He didn't know any better. He didn't know he shouldn't have sex with his daughter. I mean, really? In sentencing, these broad factors didn't have to be linked to his crime to be relevant. They just needed to be present. The father's upbringing was lined with abuse and parental dysfunction. His parents were alcoholics and his father was absent. The family was poor and moved around a lot. His schooling only went as far as grade 4. He was sexually abused by at least 3 different people. Yeah, most people who sexually abuse were also sexually abused, but they understand it's wrong. His story is a harrowing one, and one that would be taken into consideration in sentencing no matter what his background. However, his tragic history carried particular significance due to his race. All considered, the trial court and the majority of the appeal court agreed that the father's circumstances, his systematic background and experience as an African Nova Scotian, supported a sentence of 2 years under house arrest. If this act of incest was committed several years ago, house arrest wouldn't even have been on the table. The criminal code once prohibited house arrest as a punishment for incest and other various crimes, a prohibition that was upheld by the Supreme Court of Canada as late as 2022. But 2 weeks after that prohibition was upheld in the top court, the Liberal government passed a set of criminal law reforms, Bill C-5, to put house arrest back in as an option for incest. Oh, so once again, it was your politicians who did this, led by Justin Castro. Communism. One policy reason for this change, quoted the court decision, was to address overrepresentation of black Canadians in the prison system. Aside from these sentencing, so in order to get less black people in prison, you had to put incest as a category for house arrest. A criminal is a criminal regardless. You think this isn't about destroying Western civilization? Please, wake up. Aside from the sentencing reforms to the criminal code, the practice of assessing an individual black offender's experience of racism and trauma has been supported directly by the feds. Pioneered by Nova Scotia and Ontario, the feds earmarked $6.6 million in 2021 to expand the practice. Like, why aren't you people out in the streets? The uptake of the race-based criminal procedure in Canada has been a concerning trend, and this is only the latest example. Race-based sentencing discounts began being used for Indigenous people in 1999, a decision called R versus Gladue. This practice was expanded for black offenders in Nova Scotia in 2019 and in Ontario in 2021. The Supreme Court of Canada has also said that charter rights are also to be interpreted with a racial lens. In Ontario last year, the Ontario Court of Appeal ruled that the race of an accused person should be factored into the decision to allow a jury to know their criminal record. It's hard to say how much the father's community appreciates the court's leniency, but what is clear from the court record is that he is not welcome. His crime put a rift between him and his 7 other children, some of whom have barred him from seeing his grandchildren. Obviously. So the other family members aren't buying this bullshit. But the government knows better. The communist knows better. The Marxist knows better. The lawyer in a black robe knows better. His 8th child will be raised in foster care. He has been denounced within the broader African Nova Scotian community and has consequently experienced social isolation. So the majority of the black Nova Scotians want no part of this, but here comes the pandering, paternalistic fucking government and court system to tell them that they don't even know. They don't know better. That they're oppressing themselves. How insulting! But if you're a conservative, you're the racist. The dissenting appeal judge, well, at least there was one dissent, who also applied racial sentencing considerations but concluded that the father should serve jail time, pointed out the crime had a negative impact on the African Nova Scotian community. Of course it does. How does this look to everybody else? You're saying that they can't even be held responsible to not have sex with their own children? What does that say? What does that say about their ability to make a decision on anything? There's no doubt of that. Incest harms the people at the heart of a small community the most. The theory behind lenient race-based sentencing is that it benefits a community, but in practice it deprives them of justice while undermining the fairness of the system for everyone. That's from the National Post. So they deny justice for his own family. His own family wants him in prison. But no, they know better. They deny justice and tell him, oh, you don't know any better. This is just how you were raised. We'll tell you. We'll tell you, little black person. We'll tell you that you don't understand and you just go sit in the corner. Ugh. How horrendous. It's the destruction of Western culture. You just do that by destroying law and order. So, thank you, Glenn, for the contribution. I really appreciate it. Thank you to everybody watching. Please leave any opinions in the comment section below. And again, if you want your story read on the channel, you have a topic you'd like me to cover, something you'd like to expose, you'd like to set up a Skype, a phone call, have a private video made, you'd like to sponsor a video like this for someone who needs help and can't afford it, or just make a contribution to the channel in general to keep it supported, growing, and successful. Because this channel survives 100% on contributions from all of you. Without you guys, all this goes away. So if you like what you see here and you want to see more videos like this, you know what to do with either the Cash App, Zelle, PayPal, and email links in the description box below. Also, please like and share this video wherever you can. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't, and be sure to click the subscription bell to be notified of all my video uploads. Also, be sure to subscribe to both my Rumble channels. Follow me on Twitter and Telegram as well. I'm Ollie Matthews. This has been Societal Narcissism. Take care, everyone.